Clark stared at her laptop screen, the cursor blinking mockingly at her as rain pelted the windows of her small downtown apartment. The graphic design project for a local coffee shop was due Monday, but her creative energy had completely vanished. At 26, she had imagined her life would look different. Instead of living paycheck to paycheck in a cramped studio, she had dreamed of having her own design agency, traveling the world for inspiration, maybe even finding someone who understood her passion for art, the bottle of cheap red wine on her. Coffee table had been calling to her since she got home from her part-time job at the print shop. Her best friend Sophia was out on another date with her latest boyfriend, leaving Emma alone with her thoughts and increasingly poor decision-making skills. She poured herself a generous glass, savoring the bitter taste that matched her mood. Perfectly, her phone buzzed with a text from Sophia showing pictures from some fancy restaurant downtown. Emma rolled her eyes but felt a pang of loneliness. When was the last time someone had taken her somewhere nice? When was the last time anyone had taken her anywhere at all? The wine made her thoughts drift to Jake Morrison, her ex-boyfriend, who had broken up with her 3 months ago. Jake, with his messy brown hair and guitar that he loved more than he had ever loved her, he had called her too serious and not spontaneous enough. Before disappearing from her life to pursue his music career in Nashville, the message that changed everything. His fingers moved across her phone screen before her rational mind could stop them. The wine had made her bold, reckless even. She began typing a message filled with longing and desire, words she would never have the courage to send while sober. I know it's been months, but I can't stop thinking about you. I miss the way you used to hold me, the way you made me feel alive. I'm here alone tonight, wishing you were with me. If you wanted to come over, I wouldn't say no. I miss us, Jake. I miss everything about us. She hit send before she could change her mind, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and terror. What had she done? But maybe it was time to take a chance to be the spontaneous person Jake had wanted her to be. The message delivered immediately, and Emma felt a rush of adrenaline. She had actually done it. She had put herself out there, vulnerable and honest. Now all she could do was wait and see if Jake would respond, if he would give them another chance. What Emma didn't realize was that in her wine-induced haze, she had selected the wrong contact. The message intended for Jake Morrison had instead been sent to Nathan Cross, the CEO of Cross Industries, a man she had worked with briefly on a corporate rebranding project 6 months earlier. The Billionaire's pristine penthouse office, Nathan Cross was reviewing quarterly reports when his personal phone buzzed. Very few people had his private number, and even fewer would dare to contact him after business hours. At 32, Nathan had built his empire through careful calculation and emotional detachment. Every decision was measured, every relationship strategic. The message that appeared on his screen stopped him cold. He read it once, then twice, trying to process what he was seeing. Emma Clark, the talented but unremarkable graphic designer. From the Meridian Hotel project, it just sent him what could only be described as an intimate invitation. Nathan remembered Emma vaguely. She had impressed him with her creative vision during their brief professional interaction. They had exchanged perhaps a dozen words total. She had seemed nervous around him, which wasn't unusual. Most people were intimidated by his reputation and wealth. This message suggested a completely different side of her, one that was vulnerable and passionate. His first instinct was to ignore the message, to pretend it had never happened. But something about the raw honesty in her words intrigued him. When was the last time someone had been genuinely vulnerable with him? When was the last time anyone had wanted him for reasons that had nothing to do with his money or status? Nathan stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the city. Rain streaked down the glass, distorting the lights below into abstract patterns. He had everything money could buy, but he couldn't remember the last time he had felt truly connected to another person, before he could talk himself out of it. Nathan grabbed his keys and headed for the elevator. An unexpected visitor Mia had changed into her most comfortable pajamas and was halfway through her second glass of wine when the knock came at her door. Her heart leaped. Jake had come. He had received her message and decided to give them another chance. She quickly checked her reflection in the hallway mirror. Running her fingers through her auburn hair, pinching her cheeks for color, she opened the door with a smile that immediately froze on her face. Instead of Jake's familiar figure, she found herself staring up at Nathan Cross. He stood in her doorway looking impossibly tall and intimidating in his expensive charcoal suit. His dark hair slightly damp from the rain. His piercing blue eyes studied her with an intensity that made her stomach flutter nervously. Emma Clark. His voice was deep and controlled, exactly as she remembered from their business meetings. Mr. Cross? Emma's voice came out as barely a whisper. Her mind raced to understand why he was standing at her door at nearly 10 o'clock on a Friday night. What are you doing here? Nathan held up his phone, displaying her message. You invited me. Emma's face went from pale to bright red in an instant. She grabbed the doorframe for support as the reality of her mistake hit her like a freight train. She had sent that intimate, desperate message to Nathan Cross, one of the most powerful men in the city. Oh my God, she whispered, covering her face with her hands. That wasn't meant for you. That was supposed to go to someone else. I'm so sorry, Mr. Cross. I had been drinking and I made a terrible mistake. Nathan studied her reaction carefully. The horror on her face was genuine, and her embarrassment was palpable. But there was something else there too, something that drew him in despite the awkwardness of the situation. May I come in? He asked quietly. It's raining quite heavily. Emma hesitated for a moment, then stepped aside. What else could she do? She had already humiliated herself completely. Nathan entered her small apartment, and she immediately became conscious of how different their worlds were. Her thrift store. Furniture and clearance rack decorations seemed shabby compared to his obvious wealth and sophistication. Unexpected chemistry? Can I offer you something to drink? Emma asked, her voice still shaky with embarrassment. I have wine or coffee or water. Wine would be fine, Nathan replied, surprising himself. He never drank during the week, and he certainly never made unplanned social visits. But something about this situation, about Emma herself, had thrown his usual caution to the wind. Emma poured him a glass of the cheap red wine, cringing internally at how inferior it must seem to someone of his stature. They sat across from each other in her tiny living room, the tension between them thick enough to cut with a knife. I really am sorry about the message, Emma said again, unable to meet his eyes. It was meant for my ex-boyfriend. I know how inappropriate it must have seemed coming from someone you barely know. Nathan took a sip of the wine, noting that while it wasn't expensive, it had been chosen with care. Actually, he said slowly, it was the most honest communication I've received in months. Emma looked up at him in surprise. There was something different about his demeanor now, less cold and intimidating than she remembered. Honest? In my world, every conversation has an agenda. Every relationship is transactional. People tell me what they think I want to hear, not what they're actually feeling. Nathan leaned forward slightly. Your message, even though it wasn't intended for me, was refreshingly genuine. Emma felt her cheeks burn again. It was also completely mortifying. Was it? Nathan asked, and she caught a hint of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. When was the last time you did something completely spontaneous, Emma? Apparently about an hour ago when I sent that text, she replied, and to her surprise, Nathan laughed. It was a rich, warm sound that transformed his entire face. They talked for hours, the conversation flowing more naturally than either had expected. Emma learned that beneath Nathan's cold exterior was a man who had sacrificed personal connections for professional success. He had built his empire from nothing after his father abandoned his family when Nathan was 15, leaving them with massive debts and broken dreams. Nathan, in turn, discovered that Emma's quiet professionalism hid a passionate artist who had been told to, many times that her dreams were impractical. She had settled for safe choices and stable relationships, always putting security before her own happiness. I used to paint, Emma confessed, as they finished the bottle of wine. Big, wild, abstract pieces that made no sense to anyone but me. My ex-husband called them a waste of time and money. You were married? Nathan asked, surprised by the pang of something that felt suspiciously like jealousy. For 2 years. David was practical, responsible, everything I thought I wanted. He slowly convinced me that my art was childish, that I needed to focus on more realistic goals. Emma's voice grew soft with regret. I haven't painted anything in 3 years. Nathan found himself angry on her behalf, angry at people who would try to dim such obvious passion and creativity. And the ex-boyfriend? The one the message was really for? Jake, Emma sighed. The complete opposite of David. He was all passion and no stability. He left for Nashville to chase his music dreams and said I was holding him back because I wouldn't drop everything and follow him. So you've been trying to be what other people wanted instead of being yourself, Nathan observed. Emma met his eyes, seeing understanding there instead of judgment. And you've been so busy building walls to protect yourself that you've forgotten what it feels like to let someone in. The truth of her words hit Nathan harder than he expected. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both recognizing something in the other that felt like coming home. As the night grew later and the wine took effect, Emma found herself relaxing completely for the first time in months. Removed his jacket and tie, rolling up his sleeves in a gesture that made him seem more human and less like the untouchable billionaire she had imagined him to be. I should go, Nathan said finally, though he made no move to leave. It's nearly 2 a.m. I know, Emma replied, not wanting the evening to end. Something magical had happened between them, something neither had expected but both. Were reluctant to release, Nathan stood slowly, gathering his jacket. Emma, he said, turning back to face her. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night? Somewhere we can continue this conversation? Emma's heart skipped a beat. Are you asking me on a date, Mr. Cross? Nathan, he corrected gently. And yes, I believe I am, Emma smiled, feeling brave and hopeful for the first time in months. I'd like that very much, Nathan. As he reached the door, Nathan paused. And Emma? Don't stop painting. The world needs more beauty in it, not less. After he left, Emma sat in her quiet apartment, replaying every moment of their unexpected encounter. She had sent a message meant for someone from her past, but somehow it had delivered her to someone who might just be her future. She looked at her easel, covered with dust in the corner of her room, and for the first time in 3 years, she felt the familiar itch to create something beautiful. Emma woke the next morning with sunlight streaming through her apartment windows and a smile already forming on her lips. For a moment, she wondered if the previous night had been an elaborate dream. But Nathan's business card sat on her coffee table next to the empty wine glasses. Proof that the impossible had actually happened. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. How was your boring Friday night? I have so much to tell you about my date. Emma stared at the message, wondering how to even begin explaining what had transpired. Instead, she texted back, Actually, I have news too. Coffee in an hour? She spent extra time getting ready, choosing a flowing emerald dress that brought out her eyes and made her feel confident. As she applied mascara, Emma caught her reflection and paused. When had she stopped putting effort into her appearance? When had she started settling for comfortable instead of beautiful? At their usual coffee shop, Sophia's jaw dropped as Emma recounted the events of the previous evening. Her best friend, a successful marketing executive with perfectly styled, blonde hair and an expensive handbag, listened with growing amazement. Wait, Sophia interrupted, holding up her manicured hand. You accidentally sent a spicy text to Nathan Cross, and he actually showed up at your door. And we talked until 2 a.m, Emma added, stirring her latte nervously. Emma Clark, you beautiful disaster, Sophia laughed, shaking her head. Do you have any idea who this man is? He's been on the cover of Forbes 3 times. He owns half the commercial real estate in the city, and he asked you on a date. Emma felt her stomach flutter with anxiety. That's exactly what worries me, Soph. We're from completely different worlds. What if this is just some kind of novelty? For him, what if he gets bored? Sophia reached across the table and squeezed Emma's hand. What if he doesn't? What if this is exactly what both of you need? You've been hiding behind safe choices for years, Em. Maybe it's time to take a real risk. The perfect evening that evening, Nathan arrived at Emma's apartment precisely on time, looking devastatingly handsome in dark jeans and a navy blazer. He had traded his usual corporate armor for something more casual, though everything about him still screamed expensive and sophisticated. You look beautiful, he said simply. And Emma felt warmth spread through her chest at the sincerity in his voice. He had chosen a small, Italian restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, intimate and cozy without being overwhelming. As they settled into a corner booth, Emma realized Nathan had put considerable thought into making her comfortable. "Have a confession?" Nathan said as they shared a bottle of wine. "I spent most of today researching restaurants that would be perfect. For tonight, I wanted somewhere you'd feel at ease." Emma smiled, touched by his consideration. "And I spent most of the day wondering if I'd imagined last night entirely." "Did it feel surreal to you too?" Nathan asked, leaning forward with genuine curiosity. "Completely. I keep waiting for someone to tell me this is all some elaborate joke." Emma took a sip of wine, feeling herself relax as she had the night before. "Can I ask you something personal? After last night, I think we've moved well beyond polite boundaries. When was the last time you did something just because it made you happy? And not because it was strategic or profitable, but just because it brought you joy?" Nathan was quiet for a long moment, considering her question seriously. "Honestly, I can't remember.
Away.
Everything in my life has been calculated for so long that I've forgotten what pure happiness feels like." Emma felt her heart ache for him. "That sounds exhausting." "It is," Nathan admitted, surprising himself with his honesty. "But it's also safe. When you don't invest emotionally in anything, you can't be disappointed or hurt. But you also can't be truly happy," Emma pointed out gently. Their conversation flowed as naturally as it had the night before, covering everything from childhood dreams to current fears. Nathan told her about growing up poor, about watching. His mother worked 3 jobs to keep their family afloat after his father left. Emma shared her struggle with self-doubt, how she had slowly stopped believing in her own artistic vision. "I used to think I could change the world with my art," Emma confessed over dessert. "I wanted to create things that made people feel something real, something beautiful." "What stopped you?" Nathan asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Life. Practical concerns. People telling me to be realistic." Emma traced patterns on the tablecloth with her finger. "After a while, I started believing them. I convinced myself that dreaming big was just setting myself up for disappointment." Nathan reached across the table and covered her hand with his. "I think you stopped believing in yourself because the people around you were afraid of your potential. Some people feel threatened by others who dare to dream beyond the ordinary." The touch of his hand sent electricity through Emma's entire body. She looked up to meet his intense blue eyes and saw something there that made her breath catch. It was desire, yes, but deeper than that. It was recognition, as if he truly saw her in a way no one else ever had. Crossing boundaries after dinner, Nathan suggested a walk through the nearby park. The evening was warm and clear, with stars visible despite the city lights. They strolled slowly along the winding paths, their conversation becoming more intimate with each step. "Can I tell you something that might sound crazy?" Emma asked as they paused beside a small pond where moonlight danced on the water. "After the last 24 hours, I'm prepared for anything," Nathan replied with a smile. "I feel like I've been waiting my whole life for last night to happen. Not the embarrassing text part," she added quickly, making him laugh. "But meeting someone who understands what it's like to feel trapped by your own choices." Nathan stopped, walked in and turned to face her completely. "Emma, I need you to know something. I've never done anything like this before. I don't date casually. I don't make impulsive decisions. But I certainly don't open up to people the way I have with you." "What are you saying?" Emma asked, her heart beginning to race. "I'm saying that in less than 24 hours you've managed to turn my entire world upside down. And instead of terrifying me the way it should, it feels like the most natural thing in the world." Before Emma could respond, Nathan stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her face gently. "May I kiss you?" he asked softly. Emma's answer was to rise up on her toes and meet him halfway. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative and sweet. But as Emma's arms wound around his neck and Nathan pulled her closer, it deepened into something that spoke of promises and possibilities. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. Nathan rested his forehead against hers, his eyes closed as if trying to memorize the moment. "This is happening fast," Emma whispered, though she made no move to step away from him. "Too fast?" Nathan asked, concern evident in his voice. Emma considered the question seriously. Every rational part of her mind screamed that this was moving at lightning speed, that she barely knew this man, that their differences made any real relationship impossible, But her heart had a different answer entirely. "No," she said finally. "It feels exactly right." They spent the next several hours walking and talking, sharing stories and dreams they had never told anyone else. Nathan spoke about the loneliness of success, how wealth had insulated him from genuine human connection. Emma opened up about her fears of not being enough, of settling for less than she deserved because she was afraid to reach for more. "I want to see your paintings," Nathan said suddenly as they sat on a bench overlooking the city skyline. "I told you. I haven't painted in years," Emma protested. "But you still have them, don't you? The ones you did before you stopped believing in yourself?" Emma hesitated. Those paintings were deeply personal, raw expressions of her inner world that she had hidden away when David convinced her they were worthless. Showing them to Nathan would be making herself completely vulnerable. "They're not very good," she said finally. "Let me be the judge of that," Nathan replied gently. "Please, Emma. I want to see the real you, the artist you were before the world tried to convince you to be smaller." Back at her apartment, Emma led Nathan to her bedroom closet where her old canvases were stored. Her hand shook slightly as she pulled out the first painting, a swirling abstract piece in blues and silvers that captured the feeling of standing at the ocean's edge during a storm. Nathan's breath caught as he studied the work. It was powerful and emotional, full of movement and life. This wasn't the work of an amateur hobbyist. This was the vision of a true artist. "Emma," he said quietly, "this is extraordinary." She pulled out more pieces, each one revealing the facet of her artistic soul. Bold colors and flowing lines, abstract interpretations of emotions and experiences. Nathan studied each one with growing amazement. "You have real talent," he said finally, turning to face her. "These aren't just good, they're exceptional." "Why did you stop?" Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "'Cause David said they were self-indulgent. Because practical people told me I couldn't make a living as an artist, because I got scared of failing." Nathan set the painting he was holding carefully against the wall and pulled Emma into his arms. "Listen to me," he said fiercely. "A gift that most people would kill for. Don't you dare let fear or other people's limitations hold you back any longer." The intensity in his voice, the absolute conviction that he had in her abilities, broke something open inside Emma. She began to cry, not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time in years, someone believed in her completely. "I want to help you," Nathan continued, stroking her hair gently. "I want to see what you can create when you're not holding yourself back. Will you let me support your art, not as charity, but as an investment in something beautiful and important?" Emma pulled back to look at him through her tears. "Nathan, I can't let you do that. It wouldn't be right. Why not?" "I invest in things I believe have value. I believe in you, Emma Clark." Ala lied. "I believe in your talent and your vision." He cupped her face in his hands. "Besides, I have a selfish motive. I want to be around when you remember how extraordinary you are." As Emma looked into Nathan's eyes, she saw her future reflected there, not the safe, small future she had been settling for, but something vast and bright and full of possibility. It terrified her and thrilled her in equal measure. "Okay," she whispered, "but I have conditions." Nathan smiled. "Name them. I'll pay you back eventually. This is a loan, not a gift. I want you to let me paint your portrait." "Deal, Nathan." Agreed without hesitation, though I should warn you, I'm not a very patient model. Emma laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. "I think you might surprise yourself." As the night drew to a close, they both knew that everything had changed between them. What had started as an accidental text had become something neither had expected but both desperately needed. "Stay tonight," Emma said softly as Nathan prepared to leave. "Not for anything complicated, just stay. I don't want this feeling to end yet." Nathan searched her face, seeing honesty and hope there. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure about you," Emma replied. "For the first time in a long time, I'm absolutely sure about something." They fell asleep curled together on Emma's small couch. Nathan's arms wrapped protectively around her as she lay against his chest. Both slept more peacefully than they had in years, feeling for the first time like they had found where they belonged. Emma woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of her phone ringing incessantly. Nathan was in her tiny kitchen, looking perfectly at home as he navigated her limited appliances, his hair slightly mussed from sleep and his shirt wrinkled but still impossibly handsome. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, handing her a steaming mug. "Your phone has been going off for the past 10 minutes. Emma glanced at the screen and felt her stomach drop. 12 missed calls from Oliver Hayes, Nathan's personal assistant. She showed Nathan the phone with growing concern. "That's odd," Nathan frowned, pulling out his own phone. "Oliver never calls on Sunday morning unless it's an emergency." Before he could dial, Emma's phone rang again. Nathan gestured for her to answer, his expression growing serious. "Hello?" Emma said hesitantly. "Miss Clark, thank goodness." Oliver's crisp British accent came through clearly. "I've been trying to reach Mr. Cross. Is he with you by any chance?" Emma looked at Nathan, who nodded. "Yes, he's here. Please put him on immediately. We have a situation." Nathan took the phone, his entire demeanor shifting into business mode. "Oliver, what's happening?" Emma watched Nathan's face grow darker as he listened to whatever Oliver was telling him. His jaw clenched, and she could see the walls she had watched him lower over the past 2 days slowly rebuilding themselves. "I'll be there in 30 minutes, Nathan said finally, ending the call. He turned to Emma with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I have to go. There's been a leak to the press about my personal life." Emma felt cold dread settle in her stomach. "What kind of leak?" Nathan hesitated, clearly reluctant to share the details. "Someone saw us together last night. There are photos and speculation about my new mystery woman. The story is already trending on social media." The coffee cup slipped from Emma's nerveless fingers, shattering on the kitchen floor. This was exactly what she had feared, exactly why their different worlds could never truly merge. "I'm so sorry, Emma," Nathan said, moving to clean up the broken ceramic. "I never thought about photographers or gossip bloggers. I should have been more careful." "No," Emma said quietly, backing away from him. "I should have been more realistic. This was bound to happen eventually." Nathan stopped cleaning and looked up at her sharply. "What do you mean? This whole thing was a fantasy, Nathan. A beautiful, impossible fantasy. But this is your real life and I don't belong in it." The price of love within hours, Emma's quiet life had been turned completely upside down. Her phone rang constantly with calls from reporters and gossip bloggers. Someone had found her social media profiles and her small client list. And suddenly everyone wanted to know about the mystery artist who had captured the attention of the city's most eligible bachelor. Sophia arrived at Emma's apartment looking frazzled and carrying armloads of newspapers and magazines. You need to see this," she said, spreading the publications across the coffee table. The headlines were brutal. "Billionaire's New Fling. From Rags to Riches Romance, and worst of all, Gold Digger or True Love." The photos showed Emma and Nathan walking in the park, his hand on her face as he kissed her, both of them looking completely absorbed in each other. "Some of these articles are actually positive," Sophia pointed out, trying to be encouraging. "This one calls you refreshingly authentic and talks about how Nathan seems happier than he's been in years." But Emma focused on the cruel ones. The articles that painted her as a opportunistic social climber who had somehow trapped one of the country's most successful men. The comment sections were even worse, filled with speculation about her motives and cruel judgments about her appearance and background. "I can't do this, Soph," Emma said, wrapping her arms around herself. "I can't live under this kind of scrutiny. Every move I make, every outfit I wear, every word I say will be analyzed and criticized." Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. "Please don't let them get to you. I'm handling this. We'll get through it together." But Emma wasn't sure they could. She wasn't built for this kind of public attention, this level of judgment and speculation. She was a private person who valued her quiet life, her small circle of friends, her ability to move through the world without being noticed. Nathan's choice at Cross Industries? Nathan was in full crisis management mode. His PR team had assembled in the conference room, laptops open and phones buzzing as they monitored the media coverage. "Sir, we recommend the standard response," his head of communications said. "A brief statement that you don't comment on your personal life, and then we wait for the story to die down. It usually takes a week or two." "And Miss Clark?" Nathan asked tersely. "We suggest you maintain distance until the attention fades. Any continued public appearances will only fuel more speculation. Nathan felt anger building in his chest. These people, his own employees, were treating Emma like a problem to be managed rather than a person he cared about. That's not acceptable. Sir, with respect, this is how we've always handled these situations. Remember the actress from last year? The art gallery owner? Clean breaks, minimal damage to your reputation? The comparison to his previous superficial relationships made Nathan's jaw clench. Those women had been fleeting distractions, relationships of convenience that meant nothing to him. Emma was different. Emma was everything. This situation is different, Nathan said coldly. Miss Clark is not a problem to be solved. She's important to me, and I want your focus to be on protecting her, not managing her. His team exchanged worried glances. They had never seen their boss this invested in a woman before, and it made them nervous. Of course, sir, the communications director said carefully. But you should know that some of the coverage is quite harsh. Miss Clark is being portrayed as a gold digger by several publications. Her background, her financial situation, her previous relationships, it's all being scrutinized. Nathan's hands clenched into fists. The idea of Emma being hurt by this media circus of her private life being dissected by strangers made him feel murderous than fix it. I don't care what it costs or what favors you have to call in. I want those stories retracted, and I want positive coverage of Emma in every major publication by the end of the week. Sir, that's not really how media relations work. Then learn how to make it work, Nathan snapped. Not losing her because of some tabloid gossip. Do whatever it takes. The test of faith by evening, Emma had turned off her phone and drawn all her curtains. The constant attention had become overwhelming, and she found herself questioning everything about the past few days. Had she been naive to think someone like Nathan could truly care about someone like her? Had this all been some kind of elaborate game to him? When Nathan arrived at her apartment that evening, he found her sitting on her couch surrounded by newspapers, her eyes red from crying. Emma, he said softly, sitting down beside her and pulling her into his arms. I'm so sorry this happened. I should have protected you better. Emma asked, her voice muffled against his chest. How do you protect someone from this? This is your world, Nathan. This is what dating you means. Not always, Nathan said firmly. The attention will die down. People will find something else to talk about, and in the meantime, I'll make sure you're protected. Emma pulled back to look at him. Can't control the media, Nathan. Can't make people stop judging me or speculating about my motives. And I can't live my life wondering if every photographer is going to twist our private. Moments into entertainment for strangers, Nathan felt panic rising in his chest. He could hear the resignation in Emma's voice, could see her pulling away from him emotionally. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe we should take a step back. Maybe we should let things cool down for a while. No, Nathan said immediately, his voice fierce. Absolutely not. I'm not letting some gossip columnist destroy the best thing that's ever happened to me. Emma felt tears spring to her eyes at the raw emotion in his voice. Nathan, be realistic. Get these headlines. Get what they're saying about me. I'm being called a gold digger, a social climber, someone who's using you for your money. How long before you start wondering if they're right? Nate. Nathan cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. Never. I will never wonder that. Because I know who you are, Emma Clark. I know your heart, your talent, your incredible capacity for love. I know you sent that text to someone else and ended up giving me the greatest gift of my life by accident. His words broke down the walls Emma had been trying to build around her heart. But what if I can't handle this? What if I'm not strong enough for your world? Then we'll build our own world, Nathan said simply. One where we can be ourselves, without judgment or interference. But I'm not giving up on us, Emma. I'm not letting fear win. Love's true test, the crisis, came a week later when a particularly vicious article appeared, claiming that Emma had deliberately sought out Nathan. The accidental text had been a calculated move by a struggling artist to snag a wealthy benefactor. The article included quotes from David, her ex-husband, painting her as manipulative and opportunistic. Emma read the article at her kitchen table while Nathan was in a morning meeting. And by the time he returned to her apartment, she had already begun packing. What are you doing? Nathan asked, his voice deadly calm despite the alarm in his eyes. I can't do this anymore, Emma said without looking at him. They interviewed my ex-husband, Nathan. They dug up every embarrassing detail of my life and twisted it to fit their narrative. I can't live like this.
What?
Nathan moved to stand in front of her suitcase, blocking her path. So you're just going to run? You're going to let them win? Being realistic, Emma shot back, finally meeting his eyes. This isn't going to stop. As long as we're together, I'll be a target. They'll keep digging, keep twisting everything about me into something ugly. And you think I care what they say? Nathan demanded. You think some tabloid gossip is going to change how I feel about you? Maybe it should, Emma said quietly. Maybe you should care that being with me makes you look foolish in the eyes of your peers. Nathan stared at her for a long moment, then slowly began to smile. You really don't understand, do you? Understand what? How completely and irrevocably in love with you I am. Nathan stepped closer, taking her hands in his. Emma, I have spent my entire adult life building walls to protect myself from exactly this kind of vulnerability. I have avoided real relationships because I was terrified of being hurt or betrayed. Emma felt her resolve wavering as she looked into his eyes. But you, Nathan continued, you walked into my life by accident and showed me what I was missing. You made me remember what it feels like to be truly happy, truly connected to another person. Do you honestly think I'm going to let some newspaper articles scare me away from that? But the scrutiny, the judgment will fade, Nathan finished, firmly, but my feelings for you won't. Emma, I love you. I love your talent, your passion, your incredible capacity for caring about others. I love the way you make me want to be a better man. I love how you see beauty in things other people overlook. Emma felt tears streaming down her face. I love. You too, she whispered. I'm just scared. And be scared with me, Nathan said, pulling her closer. But don't run from the best thing that's ever happened to either of us. 3 months later, Emma stood in the center of her very own art gallery, surrounded by her paintings and the people who had come to celebrate her first solo exhibition. The opening night had been a tremendous success, with several pieces already sold to collectors who appreciated her unique vision. Nathan stood nearby, watching her interact with potential buyers and art critics with pride shining in his eyes. She had blossomed over the past few months, growing more confident in her artistic voice and her place in his world. The media attention had indeed faded, replaced by new scandals and fresh gossip. But more importantly, the narrative had shifted. Emma was no longer seen as a gold digger or opportunist, but as a talented artist who had captured the heart of one of the city's most successful men. Her story had become one of inspiration rather than speculation. She's remarkable, said Margaret Whitman, the city's most respected art critic, as she studied one of Emma's larger pieces. There's so much emotion and movement in her work. She has a very bright future ahead of her. Nathan smiled, remembering how Emma had cried when the first positive review of her work had been published. She was finally beginning to believe in herself again, to see her talent through his eyes rather than through the lens of past criticisms. Emma, Nathan called softly, and she turned to him with a radiant smile that still had the power to stop his heart. Having fun? To stand beside him, watching you succeed. It's the best entertainment I've ever had, Nathan replied, wrapping his arm around her waist. As the evening wound down and the last guests departed, Emma and Nathan found themselves alone in the gallery surrounded by her art. She had changed into comfortable shoes but was still wearing the elegant black dress Nathan had bought for her, looking every inch the successful artist she was becoming. I have something for you, Nathan said, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. Emma's breath caught. Nathan, before you panic, he said with a smile. It's not what you think. Not yet, anyway. Emma opened the box to find a delicate silver necklace with a small charm in the shape of a paintbrush. It's beautiful, she whispered. I had it made specifically for you, Nathan said as he fastened it around her neck. I wanted you to have something that represents who you really are, not who other people tried to make you become. Emma turned to face him, her eyes bright with tears of happiness. I can't believe how much my life has changed since that night I sent you that ridiculous text. Best mistake either of us ever made, Nathan agreed, pulling her close. Nathan, Emma said softly, I need you to know something. I'm not the same person I was 3 months ago. You helped me remember who I really am. But more than that, you helped me become who I want to be. You did the same for me, Nathan replied. Spent so many years thinking that success meant being invulnerable, untouchable. You taught me that real success means being brave enough to love someone completely, even when it's terrifying. Emma smiled up at him. So what happens now? Nathan glanced around the gallery at the red dots beside several of Emma's paintings, indicating sales at the guest book filled with positive comments and contact information from potential buyers. Now, he said, we build the life we both deserve together. Epilogue. 1 year later, Emma put the finishing touches on her latest painting, stepping back to admire the swirling blues and golds that captured the feeling of watching the sunrise from Nathan's penthouse terrace. The piece would be part of her upcoming show in New York, her first exhibition outside of their home city. It's perfect, Nathan said, from the doorway of what had once been his formal dining room and was now Emma's studio, had moved into his penthouse 6 months earlier, and he had immediately converted the space for her art without her even asking. Emma smiled, wiping paint from her hands. I think it might be my best work yet. Every piece you create is your best work yet, Nathan said, moving to wrap his arms around her from behind. You keep evolving, keep growing more confident in your vision. Emma leaned back against his chest, marveling at how natural this had become. She had worried about moving in with Nathan, about losing her independence, or feeling overshadowed by his success. Instead, she had found that loving him and being loved by him had made her more herself than ever before. The Times wants to do a feature article about us, Nathan said casually. About our relationship, your art, how we've handled the public attention. Emma tensed slightly. While the media coverage had become much more positive over the past year, she was still wary of giving interviews about their personal life. We don't have to do it, Nathan added quickly, sensing her hesitation. I told them we'd discuss it. Emma turned in his arms, studying his face. What do you think? I think, Nathan said slowly, that we have nothing to hide. I think our story might inspire other people who are afraid to take chances on love. Only if you're comfortable with it. Emma considered this. A year ago, the thought of being featured in a major newspaper would have terrified her. But she was stronger now, more confident in herself and in their relationship. Okay, she said finally. Let's do it. But I want them to focus on my art. As much as our relationship, I want people to see me as an artist first, not just as your girlfriend. Nathan smiled proudly. Deal, though for the record, you're going to be more than my girlfriend very soon. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Nathan, I'm not proposing right now, he said quickly, though his eyes were dancing with mischief. But I'm not proposing either, Emma laughed, throwing her arms around his neck. You're impossible. I'm in love, Nathan corrected, pulling her closer. There's a difference. As they stood together in Emma's studio, surrounded by canvases that told the story of her artistic rebirth and the windows that overlooked the city where they had found each other, both felt the deep contentment that comes from finding exactly where you belong. The accidental text that had brought them together seemed like destiny now, a perfect mistake that had led them both to the love they had been searching for without even knowing it. Emma had found her voice as an artist and her courage as a woman. Nathan had learned that true strength came not from building walls, but from having the courage to tear them down. Their love story had begun with a message sent to the wrong person, but it had led them both to exactly the right place.